And we are live. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Global Citizens. My name is Calvin. I'm the show's creator and host. So, my guest for today is somebody really, really amazing. She is the Chief Executive Officer of TCKidNOW. She has been in social work for over 10 years. She has helped multiple and even thousands of third culture kids to help find their identity, to help those who are struggling, and she has been a community organizer for a period of time. So my guest for today is Miss Myra Dumapias. Hi Myra, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
Fantastic. Okay,
Thank you for having me.
you are most welcome. Is the introduction that I give you justified of all that you accomplished, or I'm missing something?
No, I think it's a good summary.
All right, fantastic. Okay, Mira. So, mind introducing a little bit more about your TCK journey for one, and two, can you share a little bit more on TCKid now, with regards to how your organization has been started and how you have been running it so far?
I was at TCK. I grew up as a diplomat, a daughter of a career diplomat, and actually, my father's father was also a career diplomat. And I didn't become a career diplomat because I think mostly because I didn't know if I wanted to have my own children um, traveling so frequently and so much. But I also know that TCKs have a lot of gifts that we have and that we build as soon as we sort of breathe and walk because of our
Yeah.
exposure to so many cultures. And I know for me, for example, one strength that I know that I developed because I grew up moving around so much is really knowing who I am and what I want. And I don't remember going through a period of, oh, I need to find myself. I found myself as I was growing up, moving around so much because my environment was constantly changing. And so it forced me as a young age, it's sort of like the blueprint of who I am, to know who my authentic self was because I was forced to distinguish between that and my environment that was always changing. And also, I would say my friendships helped me to just stay who I was because in a lot of the international school cultures, you're allowed to be who you are.
All right. Okay. So for those of you who just tuned in for the show for the very first time, yeah, Global Citizens is a channel that whereby I hosted third culture kids such as Mira, myself, expatriates, and nomads in order for them to share their personal experiences working and living in the country outside of their passport. Why I actually love these individuals is because when you are visiting a country as a tourist, it is more towards sightseeing. You are there as a guest, right? So you are much more welcome in a sense, and also you are there to see more to experience something outside of your home country. So it's more towards, well, you are seeing the positive. But all these individuals that I mentioned, all of us would live within the country for months, years, and as a result, it become part of who we are because we experience their lifestyle, positive and negativity aside. Yeah. Okay. So Mira, my very first question is going to be this. Earlier, you mentioned with regards to knowing who you are, right? So what actually forms the anchor, things or people that allows you to stick to your roots? I know you mentioned your friends, but maybe you can elaborate a bit more. And how do you think younger TCKs can actually help to discover theirs?
For someone like me who, it's a really unique experience. And for people who didn't grow up moving around so much, it's similar to when you leave a hometown and, for example, you move somewhere else, and maybe the school that you grew up in, was shut down and you know closed down and everything, and then you find someone in another city or another town that also went to that school, and no one else can identify with it because now the school is closed. That's how it is for TCKs, where so like I've heard of stories of people going to conferences and it wasn't even a TCK conference, but for somehow TCKs sort of flock together, and there's something about us that's unique because of, I don't know, like I can't fully describe it, but for me, everywhere I go, I can relate to people who also grew up rootless, or they just didn't fit in, were misfits somehow. And so for me, running TC Kid now, used to be called TC Kid. What serves as my anchor is the commonality I have with others. And a few years ago, I actually did an illustration to help me teach about the population of TCKs to the uh, graduate social work classes, graduate social work students I had. And how I described the anchor was that it's a common experiences and common identity that kind of stand out, kind of like when you go to another country and everyone else speaks a different language, but you hear the one that you can understand that's different from everyone. And so there's something about the common experience that is unique, and a common feeling of rootlessness and not easily belonging in one place, as well at the same time as belonging everywhere. There's something about that sort of binds us together, and I would also say that is also what my anchor is, especially in what I do for work.
Or okay. Okay, first off, I actually need to dispel a certain stereotype or image here, because when people hear the term social work, I think in the US it's more commonly associated in the movies, whereby somebody who will take away a foster child. And for in Asia itself, the term itself might never, even though it's a term that's not intended to have any kind of harm. However, it has never been associated with anything that is positive. If so far that I've ever heard it, it's because people would assume that being a social worker means that you are somebody who is paid low, or maybe you are not doing something that is, maybe people would find you more impressive as an entrepreneur or somebody that is in a high career position. Yeah. So maybe can you please elaborate a little bit more on this area?
Or the
One and
career
two.
of social work.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
the
And
one thing that I'm really proud about, for the field of social work and the training that social workers go through, is that it is actually a very professional job set and skill set. There are always going to be misconceptions and stereotypes. Like, for example, another field that often gets misunderstood a lot and misrepresented, maybe, is the field of linguistics.
yeah.
So some people say, "Oh, so you're a linguist? That means you know, like, what, 20 languages? You can speak fluently in 50, 100 languages." And what
That's
linguistics
impossible.
is,
I can
yeah.
speak three language, and my Chinese is still not my Chinese is still underdeveloped as the way I feel it. As long as I can converse with my dad's business partner and stuff, and my Bahasa is crap, honestly, because I live overseas for so long.
Yeah, so like it's like for the field of linguistics and linguists, they're often mistaken to think, that they know all these languages, but what linguistics is actually the study of language.
Yeah.
And so you study how a sentence is broken down, you study why, this is an interesting thing, just a little side note. So
Yeah.
if you hear me talk like a whole sentence, right, in your head, you know where the words are, where one word starts and one word ends. But actually, in just by sound, there's actually no pauses between words. So
Yeah.
things like that are so fascinating to me when I study linguistics. But as a field, um, linguistics is very much understood just the way social work is. And you're right, here in the U.S., especially before, maybe not so much now, people think of, oh, you're a social worker, so that means you separate parents and children, and
Yeah.
you're just the evil. But there is one truth about social work, is that it's not very highly paid, but that's why there's also it's a professional field where you start, and there are bachelor's degrees program for social work, and graduate and PhD. And so Brene Brown, for example, is a social worker. And so there's figures out there that I believe change the face of social work. And if there are still any stereotypes and myths about social work, it's really because of their, you know, that person's exposure to what a social worker is. And so going back to what I'm proud about is not just the professionalization of social work, but the fact that we see things as part of a whole system. So we don't separate, for example, mental health away from the social circle of a person or their finances and what they're struggling with. We look at the whole system that a person lives and exists and operates in. And so, for example, a psychologist might counsel someone in an office, and you never know if that person is just putting on a performance during the 1 or 2 hours during the counseling session. But social workers are actually more exposed because it's in interdisciplinary field. So there's social workers in schools, hospitals, social workers in corporations, and social workers in so many other fields. So for example, whereas a psychologist or a therapist might see someone within the 1 or 2 hours and ask questions, they have to rely on self-reports of the individual. Social workers can be there because of the character and nature of our work. We can be there outside those 2 hours and see how a person really is day to day. And for me, it's a very it's the mental health profession for those doing clinical that is, you know, for the ones who are open-minded and curious and want to see all the different angles that a person exists in, rather than just the 1 or 2 hours in the therapy session. And for the ones the social workers that aren't clinical like me, Brene Brown isn't clinical. She's more like a research social worker. There's so many other ways to excel in social work, like the way Brene Brown does, and you know, doing so much research on vulnerability, which is actually, you know, her body of research and work is actually very helpful for TCKs, because she explains why it's so hard for us to look back and grieve and maybe or feel comfortable in relationships and commitment and things like that, you know, and she boils it down to just, you know, this is a social worker, you know, but she has a wide audience and she's very much respected. And she says that joy is one of the most vulnerable feelings in the world. I know I'm misquoting her, but she she has a lot of contributions to society, you know, as far as the realm of, you know, even diversity, inclusion, and, you know, racism and discrimination and things like that.
Okay, I actually will piggyback out of the three things that you mentioned for the following questions here. So the first one that I want to tackle is this. So a lot I think I've seen this not only once in YouTube, whereby they assume we TCKs are pompous spoiled brats. So one of the
Sheltered.
one of the reasons why this could have happened is because most TCKs, if I'm not gonna the elaboration part is this is, for example, maybe we are kids of expatriates, so as a result the company will help to provide a much higher level of living, putting you in like a condominium and stuff. Or maybe like for myself, I've been very fortunate enough that my parents was well to do to actually send me overseas to study. So as a result, we tend to be associated with like a high class, over the top lifestyle that is, well, honestly, it's not all of us. I mean, I personally dislike it. I've worked since I was 17. So as a result, I know how it feels like to relate to people. However, people will only see, oh, you're an Indonesian. So that means if in Singapore, for example, they say, oh, Indonesian is rich. I think also it's because like the image from the movie Crazy Rich Asian, which no, not all of us are do that. Trust me, a lot of us are broke.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Our
so
lives weren't like Crazy Rich Asians every day just because we were in Asia.
yeah, no, we don't. Not all of us are that way. Apologies. Yeah.
The
So
food baby, yeah, that was accurate.
yeah, that's true. Okay, so however, there are times whereby maybe unfortunately there are TCK. I think it's called TC Bratz or something. It's the term. How do you think that a TCK can prevent himself or herself from giving a negative impression from maybe from being too outspoken or direct or having a much more direct approach or to dispel the image that we all are really, really spoiled, that we all are living a high, happy life when we all are actually having some our own mental issues and our own personal feelings are not always in its most stable condition.
Well, you're actually talking about a few things there. So
Yeah,
I want to address one thing about us being outspoken or direct, and for me, that doesn't really have to do with being spoiled or not. I think it
yeah,
has to do with we lived so transiently, we lived so temporarily in all these different places, not knowing when we were going to go, but we knew it wasn't going to be forever.
yeah,
None of our homes were permanent. Remember, and
yeah,
so when you don't have a permanent home growing up, um, I lost my train of thought. Uh, so you have this thing in the back of your head that I have
yeah,
no time to be fake or to put on a facade or to put on my. This is who I am the first 3 months you know me, and then this is who I am the month 4 to 6 that you know me, and this is who I am the later 6 months that you know me after the first 6 months, and then after 1 year, then I'll be myself, right?
yeah.
We didn't have that luxury, so we were always ourselves from day one.
You're right.
And
Yeah,
it was easier to make friends, at least from my experience and from what I hear from others that I know well, that we were just ourselves, and it was easier to be friends because um, you just got along and you gravitated to the people that your personality attracted and that who attracted you. And so a lot of our conversations, we don't really do small talk, mostly in general. And so we don't do small
and we
talk.
don't like
And
shallow socializing, basically. Yeah,
yeah,
am I right?
and so we're just our authentic selves from day one. And that's one thing that I think people miss. They miss that. When we talk about our childhood, I know that sometimes we're considered bragging, but really these are things that are come from our childhood stories from a place of vulnerability. And
Yeah,
that's why recently on our page, and we call it TC Kid, a home for third culture kids, our fan page on Facebook. I think they don't call it fan page anymore on Facebook because it's always changing. But anyway, so one thing I said was that resilience, basically it comes from accepting our personal truths, not rejecting them, that come from confronting our vulnerabilities. And so when we talk about childhood stories and people can't relate and said, oh, they're just bragging, that could come off as, she's just being a snob, she's bragging, sheltered, because, who talks about, having these unique animals, pets in, you know, someplace in Africa, or riding in a
zebra.
black limousine.
Yeah,
Black limousine because your dad worked for an embassy,
yeah,
or like everything that a lot of, for example, in the U.S., a lot of things that they hear. Just for the TCKs out there listening, just remember, um, don't let try to remember where they're coming from. So when
mm,
they hear, oh, your parents knew prime ministers and kings and queens, or you rode in a limousine. Um, First of all, it's not true that it was every day. Like my,
yeah,
my father was charge d'affaires or acting ambassador in Malaysia for a little bit, and South Korea. It all blends together now.
yeah.
But we still had to buy our own toilet paper, you know, like
Yeah,
we still
yeah.
had to pick our
Buy
own
groceries.
groceries.
Yeah,
We like we still drove in our car. My dad had like a Datsun Mazda 66. I can't remember which one now, but it was there. We were always fancy, especially with career diplomats. You start off as a consul and then you work your way up, and and a lot of that journey itself isn't smooth or fun or glamorous.
Yeah,
It's like any other career where you have to have patience, and your family experiences the things that aren't exactly luxury from day one. And then some of these assignments are hardship posts. So my parents, for example, they were assigned to Bucharest, Romania before and after the revolution,
oh,
and there were times that they couldn't buy meat. They couldn't buy bread, or bread was always sold without packaging, and it was hard. And I remember meat was very much a luxury. You couldn't access meat, and this is a person who worked in an embassy. You went to the same grocery stores Romanians went to. I mean, unless you were part of an embassy of a much more developed
a
country.
higher, yeah,
Yeah, and that's the other thing a lot of people who aren't TCKs sort of forget. You know, Economically, there's the global South, global North, not geographically, just economically. Um, and so a lot of the countries are working with different quality of life. The sending country is working with a different quality of life from the beginning, and then they send them out to countries, and you have all these diplomats representing different countries with different, like a broad range of economic development. And so the diplomats themselves are also equally, and on parallel, on a broad range of economic privileges, right? And you don't see it, but they're all in the same city, and they all the what the city charges them for rent and grocery is the same. It doesn't change because you're coming from a global, a nation that sent you from the global South. It
yeah,
doesn't become more expensive or become cheaper, depending on who your sending country is. And
yeah,
so the children from all these families likewise had to live with the budget that was affordable, and
yeah,
it wasn't the same for everyone. So first of all, it's not equal for all types of TCKs. Missionaries definitely, kids from missionary families definitely didn't work with the same luxuries, didn't even live in the same cities, most likely. Military brats mostly lived on the
on the pace.
bases. And so, like, there's a broad range of variance. And so that is one of the reasons why a few years ago we started a community survey that asked people about income and whether they felt like they had a economic safety net. And about less than 40% actually reported that they feel like they had an economic safety net, and the majority didn't feel like they had one.
Okay. With regards to your earlier statement, yeah, I truly agree with that. So recently, I actually saw a quote called in with regards to social media. The term is people want to hear the beautiful lies, but not the painful truth. So in this era of social media, I mean, every single post that we can put is definitely something nice or something beautiful of it. Maybe there's once in a while, but people will put something about you showing your suffering or pain. But the thing is that when they do that, it is in order for you to gain more likes or sympathy, or even maybe somebody who will be drawn into what you are experiencing at that time. So for example, when with regards to, do you feel that the image that TCKs or even I think the term was Brats still push this image even further? It's because, for example, maybe we like maybe if the son or daughter of the diplomat is in a high level, is in a caliber country, and they are using a limousine for their day, maybe to attend some gala or something related to a king or a queen. Or as a result, they will get a limousine, right? So he or she took a photo of that vehicle and then reposted, and then all kinds of funny hashtag to show his or her privilege. Do you think this image was further pushed due to how we, or TCK who could have come from a much more privileged background, they need to push it because they need to publicize themselves? And how do you think that they can actually make themselves be more socially responsible on social media?
So the question is, how can TCKs
Be more socially responsible, yeah, with regards to what they post, especially if they come from a much more privileged background. Sorry about that, it's a bit difficult to phrase it.
so I think see, TCKidNOW, that's one of the reasons why we like to talk about the intersectionalities of where the TCK identity meets. So, for example, where TCKs, how the TCK identity, how that affects income, how
Yeah.
that affects aging, the whole aging lifespan, and when you have to be a caregiver for a parent, or when you go to college, or when you yourself start aging, or prepare to have a sudden disability, or how to address things like that. And so when you look at the intersectionalities of the TCK identity, for example, with race and discrimination, and how a person, whether or not a person fits in many job environments, I think what a TCK has to do is uh, look at the intersectionalities, you know, and try to see how other TCKs may not be, may be differently affected in each of these intersectionalities. So when it comes to income, like what I was saying earlier, not everyone has a very comfortable pension plan when they retire. So most likely, the children of those people that come from less developed countries will have to figure things out more when it comes time for them to be a caregiver for their parents. So for me, the key is looking at the intersectionalities rather than just focusing on the one dimension of TCK as an identity, because we're not homogeneous.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the TCK and how it branches out to income, economic safety net, benefits that someone can avail of when they age or when they retire, or if they got suddenly ill that they couldn't work anymore, where they are with, retirement and aging, like all these other, where it branches off to at the intersections of where the TCK identity meets.
Yeah.
I think that's where a TCK would find that it's actually not really easy to simplify and generalize TCKs.
Okay. So I actually want to reflect back to one of your earlier questions. Yeah. So with regards to how when you started your career in social work, so do you feel that in for a TCK, for them it's because maybe everyone come from a much different background, but one thing that we have in common is that we are maybe we tend to feel that we are ruthless. So my question is this: would you think that a TCK would be much more fulfilled if they find an occupation or career that leans more towards purpose as compared to monetary gain? Because even though it might not pay as much as for example, if you're a TCK from an Asian family, a lot of the stereotype is associated that once you come back, you take over our family business, and then you still have to implement the same type of system or procedures that it carried over maybe from your dad's company or from your dad's regime, sorry, or even maybe from your granddad's. If let's say it's a inherited company, yeah. Do you think they would be fulfilled much more fulfilled, or if the career that they are going for is lean more towards something like a purpose, like social work, like what you're doing now, or maybe as a psychologist?
Mm-hmm. Well, every decision, like everything else in life, every decision has a set of consequences,
Yeah.
and I think TCKs are have a better jumping point when it comes to that issue of decisions and consequences, because I think a lot of people can relate to my experience of that. And then I want to ask you too, that you feel like you knew who you were at a very young age, you knew what you wanted. Maybe like the different career paths, maybe you still have to process decisions and consider consequences and the decisions following the initial decisions. But for the most part, would you agree that you you have an easier time to know who you are and what you want and being your genuine, authentic self?
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Mm, well, yes, but if I may add on to that, is that discover yourself, then be your most genuine, authentic self. The thing is that maybe this is something that I'm thankful for in my adult life. But the thing is that when you are younger, you tend to not know who you are. You don't know who is the friends you are close with, or even any kind of entertainment that you might be more you truly genuinely are more affiliated to, as compared to just following the trend or maybe the social pressure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually want to piggyback one question more on Renee Brown. You mentioned earlier on her social issues that she has tackled, even racism. Yeah. So this is actually a question that I now want to implement for each and every guest, if possible. And the reason why is because I feel this is something that a bit of a red flag I hear from my family members, because we recently watched the movie Ip Man about the master of Bruce Lee, and one of the key points that some of my family members took is, oh, racism is prevalent everywhere. So if the way I see it is that this image that you are like when an outside power come to your country, then they pressure you down, then they put you down, they start their business and etc. Of course, that is movies, that is fictional. And they are just using it in order to appeal to their personal national demographic so that their national hero can come up as the champion and stuff. Yeah. So, with regards to this, okay, my question with regards to racism is that how can a monocultural bond with multicultural better? And for TCKs of different financial status, how do you think one and the other could interact without worrying about material possession as the focus? Because maybe we will focus a bit more on the monocultural and the multicultural kids here. The reason being is that one of our differences is perspective.
Hmm. So how do TCKs and
Yeah,
monoculturals,
non-TCK can interact
non-TCKs,
better. Can interact better.
how they can interact better?
Yeah,
Uh, for me, I think a lot of, not the burden, but in a way, yeah, the burden or the maybe capacity for adjusting lies more on the TCK to how to interact better with monoculturals. I know it's so overgeneralizing,
yeah,
because but just for the purpose of the conversation, um, I think it's up to the TCK. It's because it comes natural for us actually.
yeah,
While being authentic, we have the ability to find the route to connect, because I see it a lot when TCKs have conversations. We just naturally gravitate to, well, what you have in common.
yeah,
And then I remember there was one someone said something um, about, well, does that mean that TCKs often just end up talking about themselves a lot? But I don't see it that way, because you're communicating out of your own vulnerability, out of your own authentic
self.
self, and so there's going to always be some reference, because we're so used to being, remember, like we don't know how long we have in a place, so we just ourselves from the get-go, but in a
Yeah.
way that it's not, oh, me, or all about me. And then if someone changes the topic, I'll bring it back to me, please, because I like to talk about myself. It's not like that. It's just, you have so many different, you're exposed to so many different things that you actually can find different examples where you yourself have personal experience with, rather than just, oh, I heard a story, or I heard a story of someone who heard a story from someone else who heard a story from someone else. We're exposed to so many things that we actually, you know I remember when I was interviewing Ruth Van Recken and Michael Pollack a few years ago. We were talking about how uh, there's really no normal.
Yeah.
I think it was with them that I was talking to, and so whatever, like, when I communicate with someone, for example, um, when I hear something from them that seems really unusual, I don't block it out to say, well, that's impossible. That's not within the realm of normal that I know,
Yeah.
because the TCK's realm of normal and what's possible is
Yeah, we don't really have a normal realm.
it's
Actually,
so
we
broad,
yeah,
and so we're so open-minded, and yeah, I could see that happening. So his father actually went out and there was an elephant in the backyard. Yeah, that can happen. Or, even in Malaysia. So you went on the backyard and there is a monkey.
yeah.
Yeah, that can happen.
There's actually
Or
a place in Bali that I remember that sells sausages. It's quite famous in the past. They actually have like alligators and lions and tigers inside the very shop itself. So I'm like, oh my god, this is really scary.
it's
And as
just
a kid, I thought, are you using their meat in order to sell the product? But okay, that's yeah. But I get where you're coming from.
so
Yeah,
it's like it's really up to the TCK to sort of find a point of connection.
yeah,
And as far as how it depends on the person, but again, a TCK would be really good with that, because TCKs are good with case by case basis.
yeah,
And for other people, that may be like, well, that's too complicated, case by case, every single person you meet in your life. But we already did that growing up.
yeah,
We case by cased every time, you know
yeah. That's
and
quite true.
so our mindset is so completely different, because our blueprint, our very thread of who we are, and our characters and our personalities have a tendency to be so different because of experiences like that, where our
Yeah,
range of normal is so broad and our range of not probable is a lot more narrow than someone who grew up
who
in one
is yeah,
place or
in
just a
place.
few places, because with every change in culture, you have a different set of what's possible and probable, each and every time and each and every move.
Okay. Okay, just to piggyback a bit on that, yeah. For you can draw this from your personal experience also if you want to. How do you think that a multicultural kid or third culture kid, of course, actually is able to bond better with your family members, parents specifically, and of course your romantic partners? Because for one thing is that if you're kids of expats, your parents will go along with you when you are in the new country and etc. But they are a grown adult. As a result, they already know where they are from. They already have their mindsets, perspective developed. So as a result, when they go to, maybe let's say you migrate from China to America, yeah, they will develop a mindset that leans more towards the Western culture, the kids,
Mhm.
whereas the parents will still retain their own ethnic background. And as a result, it becomes a counterculture because, for one thing, is that once I noticed is that in the Western area, people tend to be a lot more independent, especially like by the time they are officially considered an adult, they want to be able to do their own stuff. They want to go out. Whereas in an Asian country, is that the association is always that you are part of the family, regardless. I think this is actually quite common from where you're from in Philippines. Yeah.
Philippines,
So
Malaysia.
Yeah.
where I'm from.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a poor choice of words. Apologies. Indian mashed potatoes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it is it's interesting because I'm a daughter and I'm also a parent, and my son, he's 22 now, and he graduated from college. So I went through that, like I've been through both ends of going through college, and then because college is the year where you sort of, like you said, figure out who you are.
Yeah.
Because there's always like a stages of knowing who you are, right? So college is I can't remember what movie that is. It's a kid movie, where it's alluding to how you're I think it was ants, where
Ants.
you I
Okay.
think where you're either the worker that works in the mines as a they track you early on,
A Bug's Life?
and
No, wait, no, that's
about
different.
what something like that. And so
Yeah.
you're already categorized to be like a big warrior ant, or the mining ant earlier on, and so college is like that in a way. And I don't like the educational systems that track you so early before you even start high school, because I tried doing that with my son. And so for me, I just encourage him to choose the one that would provide more options, you know because over here in some parts of Texas, they track you before you even start high school, whether you're going to be um, uh, uh,
A
academic,
career or a minor.
or
Yeah, we can even
yeah,
use the analogy. It's fine.
academic or a trade school. It's very before you even start college, and I think to me that's too early. And so, but for when you reach college is when it's like it's your decision now. You choose your major, you choose your degree, you choose your path. And so all of a sudden you're always, like, depending on the high school you went in and how well they groomed you for the college years. In Germany they have the internships,
Yeah.
when you start college. And so, like, you're already thinking about the next step after college, but you also have an upper hand because there's a path for you to already start on while you're studying for that path.
I think in Japan they also have this practice whereby kids in primary school do not wear uniform in order to be able to express their individuality before
Mhm.
entering the middle school or secondary school, depending on which country you're from. When they'll start wearing on uniforms in order to, I think something along the line of like making a stamp to it to show a definite self in order to improve your self responsibility. Is it something along the line?
In Germany, it's different because it really is more like an internship,
Oh, okay.
for an actual craft, and or career path. And uh, what was I saying? Uh, what
Career
was the
path.
question again?
Okay, never mind on that.
But
So I believe
but
the question.
but yeah, the
Sorry.
college, the college is where you figure things out.
Yeah,
And so it's it's uh it's a time of the decision making, and finding your path.
yeah. Mm, mm. Yeah, well, the thing is, well, our path is never set in stone, right? It's because everybody has a different destination. I mean, being a TCK, we tend to be able to maybe, if we are lucky enough, we are able to determine our passion early in life. But not everybody is like a Kobe Bryant who knows that he's going to be a basketball player since he was a kid and he became a basketball legend. So I believe it's also the need for us to explore and to meet different kind of individuals, right? In order for us to determine who we are, because different perspective is the one that develops who we are. Am I right to say that, Mira?
Right. I think it's a combination of having the opportunities, and being a TCK itself is an opportunity to
Yeah.
invite you to discover who you are, because you're rootless and your environments are always changing. And so just naturally, you just sort of, it's an organic process where at a young age, you can easily know what parts of you and your personality and character stay the same throughout these changing environments and changing friends and changing cultures. So that's an organic gift. That's an organic process. That's very much a gift to discover who you are. But you're right. It's a combination of having the opportunities to develop that, like discernment and insight to who you are and what stays the same throughout all these changing environments and circumstances, and also being given the, just being there at the right time, just life, like events happening as each day unfolds, and whatever, you know alignment happens throughout those days, and whatever happens, for me, I don't believe in coincidences. So I believe life has a way to lead you to your path, but you have to be true to yourself and authentic to yourself. And that's why knowing who you are is a great gift and opportunity, because if all these things are thrown at you to sort of lead you to where you are, where you should be, but you don't know who you are yet, then you'd miss those things. And so I think of it like, there's things that happen in life that, sometimes you're not ready for. And there's things that happen in your life that when you are ready, you'll see it. Like sort of like if you were in a
tunnel vision.
yeah, sort of like in a, maybe like a train, right?
Yeah.
And when you're developing who you are and your skills and your talents, and whatever word doesn't describe those gifts inside you that can apply to the world. And I know earlier you mentioned, fulfillment, that what you're supposed to be aligned with is directly tied to your fulfillment.
Yeah.
And the path between fulfillment and how you get there is different from everyone. But I see it like a train where, some things aren't ready yet. Maybe you're not ready yet. Maybe the circumstances that are waiting for you aren't ready yet. And so when things aren't ready yet, it's like the train is going through the, like winding curves, right?
Yeah.
But when it's ready, and if everything is aligned right, there's actually times that if each train car has a window like in the beginning and the end, right?
Yeah.
There's a way that you could actually stand in the back of the train and see all the way through like several train cars. And so that for me is like alignment, where you can, like, the path is clear, like you're ready, the circumstances are ready, and you just go through where you see your path and you go through it. And that's just different for everyone. But I believe your question earlier about finding fulfillment is related to being your authentic self. And for TCKs, for me, I think for TCKs, it's an exciting process. Like not only because we most likely had the opportunities to discover what parts of ourselves remain the same, but it because our process of a lot of us went through multiple losses. And if you've been long enough in the TCK community and read a lot of enough books, uh, you'll learn that confronting our grief and our multiple losses is part of what we do as a community, as a tribe. That's part of what we as a tribe do. Without those journeys of confronting grief and multiple losses, there's a part of the community then that you missed out on, that's waiting for you. But the gift of doing that is that it forces you to confront our vulnerabilities. But our vulnerabilities are very much tied to our strength and resilience, because all of it comes from the same place, and it all comes from our authentic self. You can't be authentic without being vulnerable. And so the process of embracing all that and confronting it and facing it and just getting the most out of who we are, who are being our authentic self, but it also, is the same path where we find fulfillment.
Yeah.
Unless it's a fake fulfillment and you're not really fulfilled.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I get where you're coming from with that. Okay. Before my last question, I actually want to take the time to acknowledge one very interesting opinion from Gina, who is actually watching the show. She mentioned that she will watch this again later as she needs to run. So this is actually what she mentioned. Yeah. Mira, are you able to see her statement?
Yeah, I think a way to be socially responsible is for TCKs to try to share cultural experiences so that others may learn too who wouldn't have the same opportunities. Yeah, I agree with that. It's also sharing, sharing what sharing our insights that the rest of the world didn't see. A lot of us, we're working on an anthology right now of other people's stories, so that we can, as a whole anthology, represent some of the things that we've been exposed to, and not to say that, these stories from TCKs are more special. It's just that it's saying that, as strangers, we were also actually in these places and had direct insight to things and events that the rest of the world may not have seen.
Yeah, that's
And
what
if
I was actually referring with my earlier statement with
mhm,
regards to why I invited TCK, CCK, or expats and nomads is because by being there presently, it becomes a part of you. The ups, downs, wins, and losses. It becomes part to form who you are.
mhm.
So as a result, you do not your perspective, your mindset is not just where you are from originally, but it's also from everywhere. All of this because you experience things that might not be possible or might not usually seen in where you are from.
You see, and without TCKs, you know, uh, crossing all the different,
Yeah,
boundaries and nation lines and borders, um, everybody would just be, well,
they live in a box.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and like it's like it's like we are immigrants in a way, but in a way we're more transient than immigrants because we're
Yep.
actually it's not just two places or three places. For the most part, is more than, or even if not, just being in an international school where you're surrounded by people constantly moving. In a way, you're exposed to more than just two cultures, and then there's that expectation that you live back to where you moved out of, and it just so that's what makes us different from immigrants in a way, the expectation to repatriate back, not just for a summer, but just for like a certain amount of time where you might have to go back to school for a few years and feel left out in your own country,
Yeah.
and not to say, and I know some immigrants can also relate to that, and so way that we can share that hidden immigrant experience. But
Yep.
I think another way to be socially responsible is to tap into the empathy that we often feel. Like I started creating self-care posts about vicarious trauma on our page, because I found that, and some people were like initially like, why are you posting? Now we're like a news, now we're a news page, now you're a weather channel, and it's just like I have to let those criticisms just, when anyone out there that manages social media, I have a heart for you, because I know how it is to like just have to have a thick face and just, oh my gosh, like, and a lot of us do it from our own heart, from our own life passions, and to
Yeah.
read some of the criticism don't even make sense. It
Yeah.
just
I get where you're
let it.
coming from. My own personal Global Citizens page actually do not allow public posts, not because I'm stingy. The reason being is that I actually Well, the purpose for me creating that page is actually for people to have easy access to all my videos directly because I do this Facebook Live. So as a result, it will be annoying if you need to scroll down my pages to find past videos and stuff, right? So my global citizens page is used for people. It's like an archive that you can just click in and then you just check all my past works and stuff. I am more than happy to once in a while allow people to post to maybe a dear friend of mine, Miss Annie Cheer, who is actually one of my earliest guests. I actually post an article about her. It's because it was in the news. So of course I posted because I'm happy for her. So for some of you who actually do have business, I am more than happy to promote what you are doing on my page once in a while. But why I don't allow public posts is because I tend to keep it a little bit exclusive because I don't want people to send it an unnecessary post for that might start rumors or feuds. So as a result, I get where you're coming from when you're managing your own social media page.
Yeah, and and I have volunteers help once in a while, but for the most part, like there's one thing about social media, and I have
Yeah,
to say this because it's the way TCKs connect with now. Before we didn't have social media, we didn't have internet, but there's something about how I'd like TCKs to consider social media, and that is that behind every single post, behind every group, there's someone, the human person managing this,
yeah,
just because there's a sense of anonymity on social media. Like a lot of things we post sometimes we wouldn't dare say it face to face, right?
yeah,
It's like, if someone talks about grieving and something hurtful that happened in their TCK childhood, you would not, well, let me, there was one person I encountered that actually was very rough with me, saying, can you really call it a tribe? Is that really a tribe? And then I say, like, well, people have written books about it and people have done research. Well, can you really call it research? Can you really anyone can write a book? So I had one conversation like that. And I wrote a whole article. And let me just say, don't make a writer or a filmmaker or an artist upset because you're going to end up as part of their work. So
oh yeah.
anyway,
If you don't believe that, just check all of Taylor Swift's music video. All of them are her past work.
yeah, and so I wrote a whole article about it, and people loved it, you know.
Yeah,
But and so, uh, going back though to empathy, and why we started posting about climate change, and why we started posting about news stories and what's happening in other parts of the world. Yeah, we're going off the track of talking about just where is home and how can I fit in, because in a way, yeah, those are still very important questions because everyone's on a different pace of their journey, a different point in their journey. But at the same time, and this is why TC Kid Now is called TC Kid Now. So now that we know that we're TCKs and we understand the challenges as well as the strengths that come with a TCK identity, now what, right? And so the now what is part of what the work we do, and that's why we post things about climate change, because it displaces people. It displaces populations of very real people that we served. Some of us served through the days that our parents were missionaries in those towns, and that's very real. And it's not just some unrelated thing to TCKs. It's very real. And it's part of the grief that we have to confront, because when something happens in another country, a lot of us, feel that grief from far away, but we actually don't have the support for the grief that we experience. And that makes that grief so much deeper, that sometimes we wonder, like, why am I feeling this? Why all of a sudden I feel, I feel like unsafe, or I feel a lot sadder, and because it's very normal to feel that from far away, because that place that's experiencing social political unrest or a natural disaster, it was once your home.
yeah,
And that's why what we've been posting a lot more, acknowledge. And we can't get everything. I'm not a news van, like I can't report on everything. I can't, because I can't always be on, social media. And I think that's where, like, if anyone sees anything missing, we invite you to go ahead and apply to be a volunteer and help out. If you want all the news to be, represented, the one country was missed or something, then help out, and so for me, we started posting things about what's happening in the world because I started realizing that, hey, no one else is talking about the vicarious trauma, openly like this, and giving a space and a platform for people to say, I needed to hear this. What happened in Paris, what happened in Sri Lanka last year,
the bushfire.
Australia, everything, Bolivia,
Yeah, I actually just came out from my house that was flooded 3 days ago.
Oh, yes.
I was in my parents' house
Indonesia.
actually in Jakarta.
Wow.
I'm in my house now, so yeah, I can't go out of my house for 3 days. It was on New Year, so that sucks.
Sorry, you're going through that.
Nah, it's fine. I mean, in a way, I see the positive in that is that because I don't live with my parents, so it allows me to spend time with them. So because we can't get out, so as a result, my mom will have to cook the meals, and as a result, we have no choice but to eat together all the time. So yeah, it's pretty cool in that sense. Okay, Myra, my last question is actually going to be this. What 3 advices would you give to somebody who is either a TCK or they might not be, but they are at the cross points of their life? And since you are a mother, I think you can relate this well as, I don't know, you can forward this to your son if you want to, and then to tell them any advice or any future life advices.
For me, 3 advice. I'll start with one that I used to do as my personal sign off when I used to do a lot more interviews and on our YouTube channel, TCKidTV. And I don't know why I came up with this, but for me, I did the interviews, and they're a lot of work, because you do a lot of editing and splicing and all that, the video, audio editing. I used to sign off my interviews with, I think I don't know if I'm actually switching it. Keep smiling because you have a tribe, and keep sharing your stories. So that's one. Yeah. Keep smiling because you have a tribe, and keep sharing your stories. And then another one is choose who you're vulnerable with. It's great to share our stories and be ourselves with different types of people out there, different personalities, but reserve something for the people that you really take time and learn to trust, and because not everyone is a TCK.
Yeah.
So choose who you're vulnerable with. And then a third one is there's a lot of us that know that poem from I should have looked it up earlier. Well, you're too hold on. Well, let me just summarize then. But the poem that we posted on Facebook that actually got 1,500 shares or 1,500 likes.
Wow.
And that's the one. I don't want to misquote it, so let me take time to actually bring it up. Because it's so well liked. Hold on.
Take your time, no worries.
Here we go. Yeah, it's got like over 1,500 likes. It's the most liked from no, actually we shared it in 2016.
Wow.
So here you the poem is Diaspora Blues by Ijeoma Omibinu. I am so sorry if I'm butchering the name. I'm so sorry. I've never actually said it out loud. It's just been shared through social media so much. And it's so here you are, too foreign for home, too foreign for here, never enough for both. That poem speaks to us as third culture kids because we live in the in between.
Yeah.
You know, where so for me, you know, I've spoken with a lot of, you know, with artists, filmmakers, and you might be familiar with the movie Shadow Play by Tony Pietra.
I've
And
heard about it.
yeah, and so, you know, he's one of the first film that uses his identity as a TCK to push the boundaries between different film genres, and in that sense his film is very transnational, not just with the genres, but the way the film was created, you know, in Malaysia,
Yeah.
with the English language, with the audience that's intended to be international, and um, and influenced by great filmmakers that are U.S. based. And so it's so for me, like the TCK out there that, you know, is doing their own thing and feels like they're too foreign for one place. You know, they're too foreign for home, too foreign for here, wherever you are. Keep doing what you're doing. You know why? Because there's a lot of world out there that just hasn't caught up yet. Just keep building it and they will come. Just have faith that what you do is valuable. And just because you don't get enough feedback, you know, and you know, just because you don't get enough good feedback that your work is valuable or your ideas and concepts are valuable, it doesn't mean that it isn't. It just means that the audience you have isn't ready for you yet. You know, the majority of the world isn't ready for you yet, but you just have to choose your audience. And just like that train I was talking about earlier, there'll come a day when, you know, maybe not through the whole train, you know, but for a good portion of the whole train, there'll come a day when the things will come in alignment and things will just work together. And, you know, you'll be able to go through with doing a lot more of what you're doing now, with more support and with more people benefiting from what you do. So, you know, just I look at like the ugly duckling, right? The
Yeah.
ugly duckling didn't know, you know, was thought it was ugly because it was not among its people, and so maybe you just need to find the right
Be
people
patient. Yeah.
and just be patient. You're right, and you know, for things to align, and um, never let a bad word convince you that what you're doing is bad. It's just
Or who
that
you are,
that's
that
yeah.
you are not good as who you are.
It's just the word that comes out of the people that you happen to be in front of right now.
Yeah.
And not everyone, you know, just sees who you are.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Mira. Okay. So, okay, I'm actually gonna end the show soon. So first off, a little shout out to this lady, Miss Rain. She's actually my former colleague. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much also to those who watch it, and a special shout out to Gina, who actually dropped such beautiful comments, and she need to run off earlier, but I hope you will enjoy the show later on. Okay, and it might not be inside this, but it's a special shout out for myself personally because today is my 2-year-old nephew's birthday. So Damien,
Oh,
happy birthday to
happy
you! I love you so
birthday.
much. And with that, Mira, do you have anything you want to add on? Maybe on anything that a workshop or any kind of things that you want to be will be doing with TCKid now. I've actually posted all of your social media links and even some of your former publication in the description box.
Oh, thank you. Yes,
You're welcome.
just look out for updates on the TC Kid page, TC Kid, a home for third culture kids. Uh, you know, we're right now we're gathering a network of mental health professionals, including social workers, counselors, therapists, so that we have a network of people that we can refer to. And I also want to put a call out there for anyone, and we'll have the link to our application soon, or our contact information soon, to anyone out there who consider themselves a social worker, therapist, or counselor who would be interested in being part of a program where we find sponsors for people who cannot afford mental health services or counseling services, and link them to people who are willing to sponsor. So we're just putting a plea out there, for people who want to sponsor, as well as mental health providers who wouldn't mind working with a sliding scale fee, so that you could, reach out to more people who really need the service, but just for one reason or another can't afford it at this time. We really want to support the people that don't have a voice, don't have a presence in our community, because I believe the TCK community is a lot larger than what our current books represent. There's a lot of voices out there, a lot of the people, maybe from the developing world, that economically underdeveloped countries that just don't have the right opportunities yet to put out their own stories, to publish their own books, to publish their own podcasts. And so we want to use our platform for those stories. And we also understand that, mental health is one thing that, and then I also want to say that we shouldn't shame people for seeking help, and hopefully we've reached that point in time now that it's not a stigma anymore. And the one place it should not be a stigma is in our tribe.
Yeah. Okay. With regards to what Myra mentioned earlier, if you are ever interested to do a podcast like what I did, this is the Facebook live show, you can use StreamYard link. My link is in the description box. It will give you $10 off for your for the $10 of credit for any kind of package that you want to try. Along with that, there's also a link to Canva that allows you to actually create your own title card. I did it for Myra's, and I've been adding it on for all my current guests now. Okay, so with that, that's the end of Global Citizens, episode 23. Thank you so much, Myra, for coming. Yeah,
Thank you so much. This was fun.
you're most welcome. All right. Have a good day, everyone, and hope this new decade in 2020 will be better for all of you. Bye-bye.
Bye.